Hello, my name is Tyler Matuzik. I'm going to be presenting on the reversing the effects of climate change by eliminating carbon. It is based off a TED Talk by Tim Kruger. Basically, climate change is obviously real, even though a lot of people don't think so, but it's happening a lot quicker than most people think. A lot of people think it's just happening steadily, and maybe the next 100 years it might have an effect. But that is not the case. On this current pace, of our carbon emissions, our global temperatures will increase of about 1.5 degrees in the next 3 to 4 years. And we're on pace to the 2-degree increase mark within a decade. Obviously, increasing the global temperature 2 degrees can have extremely harmful effects worldwide, especially the Antarctica region, and we will see those effects with rising sea levels and changing climate change and changing wind patterns, stuff like that. Reducing our carbon emissions is not enough. Elimination of carbon is our only chance to survive this. A little background on our speaker, Tim Kruger. Tim is a geoengineering researcher who studies climate change and ways to sustainably reverse the effects of climate change. He is also a professor at the University of Oxford. He is the CEO and founder of Origin Power, which is something I will talk about later in later slides. He is also a normal speaker on ways to stop climate change. He has a very valuable insight on some certain ways and certain processes. Basically, some common ideas on how to stop climate change and how to reverse the effects is limiting our carbon emissions. But we have to reverse the trend, as just limiting is not going to be enough. Some common ways are trees and plants. As most people know, they breathe in carbon dioxide and breathe out oxygen, which is that negative effect that we want. They can store that carbon in their roots and in their soil, and they'll breathe out that oxygen. So that is what we want. However, it's not a super good probable solution, as it's not enough. It's not going to be enough of a reversal. It's just too little, too late. And it's going to be tough to plant all those trees and plants with the increasing population. As many people know, we are eliminating trees and plants to create more space for livestock, create more space to build homes, roads, stuff like that. So although it's a good idea, it's just not going to be as effective as we need it to be. Tim states that the way he is hoping to fix this an idea is through his company Origin Power. The Origin Power process does. They are working to eliminate carbon by creating electricity through the use of natural gas. What his system is a little bit differently is that the heat created through the conversion of the natural gas into electricity will break down limestone into lime. What that will do is lime can then be used in industrial processes in which it will scrub the carbon from the air, which will create that negative carbon output that we want. And since we can use this as a power source worldwide, it can be that huge effect that we need to eliminate that carbon a little bit. On this next slide, we sort of have that Origin Power process that I just talked about. As you can see, the natural gas goes in. Part of it is converted to electricity. The other part is converted into heat, which is actually CO2, which is not what we want. However, that pure CO2 can be stored underground when we create it, so it's not going to affect anything. And then that heat can be used to break down limestone into lime. And what that lime can do is then scrub CO2 from the air. I'm not 100% sure how it does it. However, that's what his company's trying to do. And after years of research, it could be very effective. So after that power process is complete, the system will be carbon negative, meaning that it will eliminate more carbon than it uses. After research, it's estimated that for every 1 kilowatt hour of electricity produced, the system will produce negative 600 grams of carbon. So that's huge. As you can see, typically electricity processes which use natural gas produce about plus 400 grams of carbon per kilowatt hour. So as you can see, that's about a net gain of about 1,000. um, grams of carbon. So that's a huge difference that we're getting to, a lot bigger than what trees and plants can do. And since it's a power process and not something like plants and stuff, the whole world can use it, as the whole world is trying to generate power using ways. If we can get this as a way to be cost effective and efficient, then why couldn't the whole world use this? And if the whole world's using this and creating this negative 600 grams of carbon per kilowatt hour, you're going to see huge differences very quickly and very effectively, which is what we need. Um, Tim stated the reduction of carbon is pretty much mandatory, not just limiting. Um, Many people are just focused on reducing emissions or just limiting what they do, but maybe that could have worked 20, 30 years ago and we weren't so behind, but now we have to focus on more, eliminating that, taking that carbon out of the air and storing it more safely so we don't increase those temperatures. Basically it. It was a short TED Talk, but very informative. I just had a couple questions that I thought about, hoping you all can answer as well. Do you think changing an energy generating system this size is feasible, or is it too large of a task to complete? Um, Obviously, if you're trying to change the way the world produces energy, it can be a humongous task. Unless every single country is on board and aware of the solution, it's going to be extremely difficult. I'm not sure if we can do it, or if we do it, it might end up being too late when every country realizes um, that climate change is real. Unfortunately, it looks like we are one of those countries that even our leaders don't really believe that climate change is real, well, which is sort of absurd, but it would definitely be a tough task, possibly feasible, but I don't know. During his speech, Tim states that every solution to climate change isn't perfect and has negative effects. What negative effects could you think of with the origin power process? Um, Now, this is a tough one. The negative effect for this process would be, in my opinion, very economical, in the fact that probably a lot of power companies would go out of business. The way, just like the coal industry gets hit with this, a lot of people might lose their jobs, which would very much hurt this whole thing being put into place. Going back to question one, I'm not sure if it'd be so feasible. So the negative effect in this would just be how the economical impact the origin power process would have. And the last question here, are there any other ways you could think of that would have similar effects of reducing carbon emissions? Um, the main way most people think of is trees and plants, and it's definitely a good start. If you have a backyard, try to maybe plant more trees and plants, as every little thing helps. But I'm not a geoengineering researcher like Tim, so I wasn't 100% sure if there are any other ways that we could reduce carbon emissions, but did want to see if you guys had any answers for that. But other than that, that's all I had for you. Thank you for listening to my presentation. Thank you.